Look at the slice that's coming out. Oh my gosh.
It's a mouthful of joy. That's the best way to put it.
This is gonna be my wedding cake. Hi, I'm Kanchan Koya, the founder of Spice Baby, and I love curry. It's dreamy, it's creamy, it's packed with spices. You can put whatever you want in it, and I think anyone should be able to have curry anytime they want. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make a 3-minute curry, a 30-minute curry, and a 3-hour curry. So let's get started. Say you only have 3 minutes, but you really want curry with as much of the flavor as possible. This recipe is for you. It's probably going to offend some curry aficionados, but we're going to be okay with that in the name of efficiency. First, we're going to create our curry sauce by using coconut cream. One of the things I love about curry is the creamy texture, which is kind of challenging to achieve in 3 minutes. So the coconut cream instead of coconut milk really helps us do that. We're going to add onion powder, garlic powder, and ginger powder. One of the things I love about curry is that you get to layer aromatics like onion, garlic, and ginger and oil, but since we only have 3 minutes, we're just gonna hack that by adding the powders instead. Then we're gonna add cayenne for heat. Then we add some turmeric, garam masala for those smoky notes, cumin, and coriander powder. Now we're gonna add salt to taste and some black pepper. Mix this all together. Sure is easier than cooking a curry on the stove for hours. Finally, we're gonna add our canned chickpeas that have been well rinsed and drained. And now we're just gonna cover this. Now we're gonna put this in the microwave for 3 minutes until it's hot and all those amazing flavors have had some time to get to know each other. Curry in a hurry. That smells really good. So now we're just gonna take off the cling wrap and marvel at the fact that we just made curry in 3 minutes. We're just gonna stir in some chopped spinach so it's gonna wilt down quicker, a hit of lime juice for those citrusy flavor notes, and then we're just gonna mix this all together. My mom would be really impressed with this hack. It truly smells like the real deal, I'm not even gonna lie. We're gonna spoon it onto some steamed rice. We're gonna hit it with some fresh cilantro for vibrancy, and we're gonna taste it. This is shockingly delicious. I can taste the citrus, all the spices, the different notes, the creaminess from the coconut. For 3 minutes, this tastes like a legit curry. This is great for busy weeknights when you want to make something your kids are gonna lap up, even if your Indian mother-in-law would not approve. Say you want something a bit more authentic and you have a little bit more time, this next 30-minute recipe is just for you. While most people are familiar with North Indian curry recipes, this particular one is inspired by Southern India. And while I'm technically North Indian, I have to say this is one of my favorites. We're gonna start by warming our coconut oil on medium heat, to which we're gonna add our mustard seeds. And we're gonna allow these to sizzle and even splatter a little bit. It's going to wake up the spices and add so much flavor. And now we're gonna toss in our curry leaves. Just as those curry leaves are starting to crisp up, about 30 seconds or so, we're gonna add our green chilies. The green chili is gonna add spice. It's totally optional, but come on. And then we're gonna add our sliced onions and give that all a nice toss. Smells so good. This combination of mustard seeds, curry leaves, and oil can be drizzled on your favorite salad, on soups, and really on anything. It is a classic base for most Southern Indian dishes. I'm gonna let these onions cook down until soft for about 5 minutes. Now that my onions have softened, I'm gonna add a tablespoon of minced ginger and 4 cloves of minced garlic. And just allow that to cook until fragrant. You definitely don't wanna burn it. Once you can smell that ginger and garlic and it smells so good, we're gonna add in 2 teaspoons of tandoori masala. So I'm cheating a little with the tandoori spice blend because this is a 30-minute weeknight friendly curry. Once you can start to smell that spice blend, it's time to add the tomatoes. The tomatoes are not just gonna add a sauce, but they're also gonna give us these beautiful tangy notes. At this point, we're gonna let this cook for about 3 minutes. And while these are cooking, you may be wondering, how can this be a curry when it doesn't have curry powder? Let's talk about that. We don't really have a thing called curry powder. Curry is such a broad concept in India. It really varies from family to family, region to region, and that's why I'm not adding just straight curry powder to this, but it's still very much a curry. Now that our spiced curry base is done, we're going to add some chopped chicken. You can do any kind of protein like fish, or you could also go completely plant-based and do chickpeas again. We're gonna hit this with salt, pepper. I'm just gonna toss this chicken to get it well coated with the spice mixture and until it's no longer pink. And then we're gonna add the coconut milk, some tamarind paste, and sugar. This is looking creamy. I can smell the tamarind and the aroma and the smoky notes from that spice blend. This is gonna be good. We're just going to cover this on medium heat and let it cook for about 15 minutes until the chicken is cooked through. It's been 15 minutes and I am just transported back to my childhood. I can smell those spices and the coconut and I just wanna dive in. We're just gonna spoon this over plain steamed rice. We're gonna hit it with fresh cilantro again because that's just what we do. And because I like heat, I'm gonna do a little sprinkling of chili powder, totally optional, unless you're me. A little bit more. People think curry is so complicated, but it's really just about layering flavor, adding a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and this is the result. I cannot wait to try it. Don't burn your mouth. Oh. That is so good, like a hug in a bowl, comfort food at its best. We have the sweetness from the little bit of sugar, we have the tang from the tomatoes and the tamarind, we have all those smoky notes from the spices, a little bit of heat. It is really a party in the mouth. So I've shown you two pretty quick and straightforward curry recipes, but say you want to really up your game, impress your guests, this next recipe is gonna blow their minds. While our 30-minute recipe took inspiration from the southern part of India, today we're going to be making Rogan Josh, a traditional Kashmiri meat curry. Here we have some cubed beef to which we're going to add garam masala spice blend and sea salt. Give it a good toss to coat the meat with the spices. Garam masala is very often used in many Indian dishes, particularly in northern Indian curries. It has smoky notes from clove, cinnamon, cardamom, bay leaf, black pepper, and a host of other really mesmerizing spices, and it goes so well with any meat dish. Now we're going to brown the beef in batches without overcrowding the pan until it is nice and brown on all sides. Coating the beef in the garam masala really allows us to get that layering of flavor. Now that my beef is nice and brown, I'm going to take it out on a sheet pan where it can rest. Don't discard anything from the pan. It has all the flavor and all the juices from the beef, and now we're going to use that to saute our onions. I'm going to add a little salt to the onions to season as I go and to help them soften a little bit quicker. I'm just going to saute these onions until they're soft for about 5 minutes. Some people like to really get the onions nice and golden brown. Do whatever feels right for you. It's all a personal preference. Our onion is nice and softened, even a little brown. To that, we're going to add our ginger and garlic. You can start to see that a lot of curries have this kind of onion, ginger, garlic in oil base in common. Now that the ginger and garlic is nice and fragrant, I'm going to add my whole spices. I'm adding black peppercorns, green and black cardamom, some whole cloves, a cinnamon stick, dried red chilies, and bay leaf. We're going to saute these whole spices with the onion, ginger, garlic mixture for just about a minute until nice and toasted and fragrant. And then we're going to add our turmeric, red pepper, cumin, coriander, fennel powder, and some dry fenugreek leaves. Sauteing the spices at the beginning of the curry as a base here is really activating the flavor, a lot of the volatile compounds, and just waking up those spices. So unlike the earlier dish where we used the pre-existing tandoori blend, here we're really building our own Rogan Josh spice blend. Our spices are toasted and beautifully aromatic, and now we're going to add back our browned beef. So because spices have antibacterial properties, they were used back in the day to prevent meat from spoiling, almost like a pre-refrigeration refrigeration hack. So we're getting the beef all nice and coated with the spice mixture, and then to this we are going to add some whipped yogurt. Some people now actually add tomato to Rogan Josh for tang. We're going with Greek yogurt. Now that the beef is nicely coated with that spiced yogurt mixture, we're just gonna add enough water to cover, salt and pepper. Now we're just gonna let this cook low and slow for 2.5 hours until that beef is nice and tender and all the flavors have merged beautifully together. Now that our Rogan Josh is simmering away, we're gonna make roti. Roti or Indian flatbread is a staple in every house. While it can seem intimidating, you and me, we're in this together and we're gonna figure it out. So first we're gonna add whole wheat flour, 1/2 cup of warm water, a little bit of oil, and some salt. So I'm just gonna toss everything together and then I'm going in with my hands. So you wanna knead this until the dough comes together and does not stick to your fingers. If your dough is a little sticky, just add a little bit more flour. My dough has now come together. I'm just gonna let this rest for 30 minutes under this damp towel and we'll be back. Now that our dough has rested, it's time to roll out the roti. So we're just gonna take a little piece with our hands. You don't have to be super precise here. You're gonna make a little ball and then sprinkle your surface with flour so it doesn't stick. Coat my little circle with flour so it's easier to roll. And then we roll. Roll a little bit, turn a little bit, roll, turn, roll, turn. That should get you to a perfect circle. If your dinner guests judge you for your roti not being a perfect circle, I think you should send them home. This is a great activity to get your kids involved in. Sensory, skill building, resilience building, because it's not going to be a circle. They're going to have to be okay with failure. This looks great, so I'm going to set this guy aside and roll out the rest. Now it's time to cook the rotis. The trick here is to get the pan scorching hot, almost to the point where it's uncomfortable to place your hand right above it. We're gonna place the rotis in the hot, dry skillet for about 2 minutes. You want your roti to puff up, but if it doesn't, don't worry about it. It's gonna taste just as good. So I'm just gonna flip it. We're gonna let this go for another 30 seconds to a minute, okay? And then we're just gonna top it with a little bit of butter for extra moisture and deliciousness. That's our first roti. I'm gonna cook up the rest, and once that's done, we're gonna be ready to bring our roti and curry together. So our roti is done, our Rogan Josh is done. Let's bring it all together. I'm totally plating a whole red chili because I will eat it. As always, a little garnish of cilantro. So I'm just gonna go right in, using the roti almost as a spoon to pick up my succulent beef Rogan Josh. I can taste those rich and warm spices, the succulent beef, the tangy yogurt. The roti is just perfect to soak up all those flavors. This is the ultimate comfort food. 3 hours may seem like a lot of time to make a dish, but trust me, this Rogan Josh is worth it. So there you have it. 3 curries in 3 different amounts of time. We have the 3-minute microwave curry for when you want curry in a hurry. We have a 30-minute curry for when you want a really delicious meal on a weeknight. And then we have a 3-hour curry for when you really want to impress someone special. I hope you make them all and let me know which one is your favorite in the comments below. I'm Kanchan and there's always time for curry.
Hey, I'm Alex and I love cinnamon rolls. I mean, what's not to like? They're gooey, they're a little crunchy, they've got a glaze, but I've got to say, cinnamon rolls do take a bit of time and energy to make. We all have different schedules, but I believe truly that should not mean we don't get to eat cinnamon rolls. So today I'm going to show you how to make a 4-minute, a 40-minute, and a 4-hour version of a cinnamon roll. Let's roll. So we're gonna start with the 4-minute cinnamon roll. This one is super easy, super quick. I'm gonna start with the filling. It's just melted butter, some brown sugar, and some cinnamon, of course. I'm starting with the filling just so we have it done by the time we make our dough. So we've got a little hack here because it's a 4-minute cinnamon roll. I'm gonna be using pancake mix instead of flour because it's already got its leavening agent in there and we can skip a couple steps. All it takes is an egg, some vanilla, some sugar, some milk. I'm gonna mix this up. Now we're gonna add in our pancake mix. Now again, this isn't a classic cinnamon roll, so don't come for me. If you want a cinnamon roll in a pinch, this might just do the trick. So our dough's looking pretty good. Got a little bench flour on there, and we're gonna do a little kneading action. It's pretty cool that pancake mix works in this. I mean, a lot of people have pancake mix in their cupboards already. Once you got a smooth ball, you're good. So now I'm gonna roll this out. I'm not a big measurer, but we're going for about an 8x6 rectangle. All right, we're good on rolling. I'm gonna start spreading the filling over this. Super easy, just try to get it all there evenly. Now we're gonna roll this up. I'm gonna try to do it pretty tightly so we get a good swirl and then kind of just push it along. We're gonna cut this baby in half. Oh yeah, that's a swirl. We're gonna be microwaving this cinnamon roll. So I just greased these to make sure they come out easy, and now I'm just gonna pop in our little cinnamon rolls. How cute. And for the final step, I'm gonna pop a teaspoon of water in here. This just makes sure that it doesn't get too dry. I'm gonna microwave these for 1:45 at medium power, and then we'll make our frosting. Mix some powdered sugar with some milk. 2 ingredients in this, super easy. That's a great consistency. Not too thick, not too thin. We're making good time. I think I did that in under 10 seconds. Let's go get our rolls and then we can eat. All right, we've got our mugs. They're looking pretty cute. Now I'm just gonna pop on some of that glaze. Yes, you can't have a cinnamon roll without the glaze. 4-minute cinnamon roll, there you go. I mean, they're looking pretty good, smelling pretty good for a microwave cinnamon roll. The last thing we've got to do is eat. I guess you could eat this anyway. You could just eat it with your hands. I'll just go for the center. I have to say, those taste pretty good for how little effort they took to make. The taste is there, sweet, definitely satisfying if you want a cinnamon roll in a pinch. But if you have a little more time and want something a little more classic, I've got the cinnamon roll for you. So this 40-minute cinnamon roll recipe is still super approachable, but a little bit closer to the classic. So I've got my flour already here in the bowl. I'm just gonna add all of our ingredients. So we got milk, melted butter, an egg, sugar, baking powder, salt, and for our final ingredient, instant yeast. So instant yeast is pretty cool because you don't have to wait to activate it like you would active dry yeast, and it's super foolproof, so pretty hard to kill. Now we're gonna mix this all up. So we're looking for like a shaggy dough. You get a little more muscle in there once it gets a little shaggier. We're ready to knead, so I'm just gonna pop this onto our surface and get in there. The dough should kind of come together and you'll be able to poke it and it will spring back. Our dough is looking good. I'm gonna pop that in our bowl, cover it with a towel, and let it rest while we make our filling. All right, now on to our filling, which is essentially the same as our 4-minute filling. We got our brown sugar, our melted butter, and our cinnamon. When I was a kid, I used to like melt butter and sugar and I would eat it as like an after-school snack. That's why I'm like this, guys. It was all that butter and sugar that I ate as a kid. All right, our filling is looking delicious. Good enough for me to eat, but I'll wait. We're gonna roll out our dough. First, we're gonna flour the surface. So again, I like to eyeball things, but we're going for like a 12x16-inch rectangle. She's looking beautiful. We should name her. Her name shall be Cheryl. All right, our girl Cheryl is looking snatched. We're gonna like slap on some makeup on this girl. She is going out tonight. We're just gonna put our filling all over there. We're gonna roll it up. Again, I'm going for like the tight roll because the tighter you roll your cinnamon roll, the better swirl you're gonna have. So just take your time. Ooh, there we go. All right, we're all rolled up, so now I'm gonna cut my dough into 9 equal pieces. Wow, Cheryl, she's never looked better. We're gonna pop these in our greased pan. It's already greased. Just gonna start at the end. Just gonna try to squeeze them all in here. All right, they're looking great. A beautiful swirl layer in there. I'm gonna pop these in the oven at 375 for 20 to 25 minutes until light golden brown. And while they're baking, I'm gonna make our frosting. We're making a cream cheese frosting. Still super easy. We just got some powdered sugar, cream cheese, and vanilla. So this is gonna be a little bit thicker consistency than the glaze was, but we want it to be spreadable. A nice creamy texture. All right, delicious. Now we're ready to frost. Damn, Cheryl. She's looking good. So there's really, again, no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just gonna slap on some frosting. You gotta get an even layer on each. These are still a little warm, so our frosting should kind of melt down into those swirly, whirly crevices. All right, we're frosty, like the snowman. I'm just gonna take one of these babies out of here. Look at that. Oh my God, I'm drooling. This is more of like your classic, delicious cinnamon roll. Perfect to impress your friends, to share with your friends, and really all you spent was 40 minutes. Let's taste it. And I think I'm gonna go straight for the center. Oh my God, guys, this is like heaven. That's the stuff right there. This is all you need. So obviously this is delicious, but if you want to see something epic, stick around for the next one. The 4-hour cinnamon roll. Well, I know what you're thinking. How could we make a 4-hour cinnamon roll? Seems a little excessive. Well, we're making it giant. Now, I used to be the queen of making things giant back in the day. Sorry, Alvin. But today, we're gonna get even crazier with a giant banana walnut cinnamon roll. I'm so excited. We're gonna start with our warm milk, melted butter, and sugar. I'm just gonna give this a stir. So our liquids are warmed to about 100 to 110 degrees because we are using active dry yeast instead of the instant yeast. The warm temperature will help the yeast to bloom. If it's too hot, it will kill the yeast. If it's too cold, it won't bloom. So I'm gonna spread it in an even, thin layer over top, just so it gets like the most surface area. So now we're gonna let this hang out for a minute until the yeast gets foamy. Now I'm gonna add in our flour and mix this all up. Again, we're looking for that shaggy dough. So this is gonna be a little bit of a wetter dough than our last one because we are doing a double proof method. This will ensure we get a very fluffy cinnamon roll. So I am just gonna cover this and let it sit in a warm spot until it doubles in size. It is time to make the filling for this giant banana walnut cinnamon roll. This is gonna take your cinnamon roll to a whole nother level. All I have to do is melt the butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, and a little salt. So I'm cooking this until everything kind of cooks down into a nice saucy kind of thing before I add in our bananas. I'm gonna add in our bananas. I love anything banana flavored, pretty much. Banana bread, banana cake, banana cinnamon roll. If I had a show, it would be called Make It Banana at this point. All right, so I'm gonna let this cook down, stirring in between for about 5 to 7 minutes. We don't want the bananas to be completely mush, but we wanna let them break down a little bit. All right, our filling is ooey, it's gooey. We still got some of that chunk of banana in there. Our filling is looking good, smelling even better. I'm gonna go get the dough and we are gonna roll out this giant cinnamon roll. All right, our dough has risen. It's doubled in size. If you take a close look, you can see some of those air bubbles in there, and that is from our yeast that was alive. Good thing I didn't kill it. So to this dough, I'm gonna add salt, some baking powder, and some flour. So I know this is still feeling a lot like our other recipe, but we're about to get crazy. Now I'm just gonna flip this onto our surface and get to kneading. So the purpose of kneading is to develop the gluten in the dough, and that will help us get a very smooth and elastic dough. You want a nice looking dough ball. We're just gonna get straight into rolling. So I'm gonna roll this to the same dimensions as the last one. We're looking good. We are ready to spread our banana filling. So again, we're just spreading this out in an even layer. And now I'm gonna hit it with some chopped toasted walnuts. Banana and walnut just goes so well together. And it's nice to have a little bit of a crunch in here. That is looking great. I need to cut this into some strips. So I'm first just gonna cut this in half, and then I'm gonna cut each of those in half. Okay, so to make this thing giant, start by rolling this first strip. Try to, again, roll it as tightly as possible so you get that good looking swirl. All right, I'm just gonna pick up this piece and roll that into this piece. Oh man. Okay, last one. We can make it. Maybe a little messy, that's all right. Okay, this monster, get it in there. Oh, I have to say, that's looking pretty good. Honestly, I would eat that straight out of the pan right now. All right, so I popped this in a 10-inch cast iron skillet. I'm gonna cover it with plastic wrap and pop it in a warm spot to let it rise and expand to the edge of the pan. It'll take about 30 minutes. Oh man, this is wild. I feel like it's my child, like it's a baby. All right, so I'm gonna bake this at 325 for 45 minutes uncovered and then 35 minutes covered in foil. Low and slow. I know it takes a while, but It's gonna be worth it for this baby. All right, we are so close to the finish line, I could almost taste it. But we've got one more thing to do, and that is our final frosting of the day. Another cream cheese frosting, but even more decadent because we're adding butter to this one. So to this powdered sugar, I'm gonna add some milk, some cream cheese, some melted butter, and some vanilla. Again, just gonna mix this up. So we wanna get this nice and smooth so that the sugar is all incorporated. All right, frosting is done. Our bun is out of the oven. Welcome to the world, big guy. So I'm gonna frost this thing, of course. The final touch on this 4-hour ordeal. I have to say, 4 hours flew by. This is a fun thing to do. Beautiful. And I'm gonna top it finally with some more of our toasted chopped walnuts. This is definitely a dish to impress. And there you have it, a 4-hour giant banana walnut cinnamon roll. It's crazy, it's beautiful. You got the texture in there from the walnuts. You got the gooiness from the banana caramel filling. You've got the cinnamon roll. You got everything. And now all that's left to do is eat. Moment of truth. Oh. I'm speechless. It actually looks very beautiful, I must say. Okay. Oh my God, guys. This is gonna be my wedding cake. It's perfect. You get every element that you love of a cinnamon roll, but then that banana flavor pops right in there to say hello, and you're like, where have you been all my life? 10 out of 10. Okay, so we just busted out a 4-minute, a 40-minute, and a 4-hour cinnamon roll. I might have a favorite. I know you're not supposed to pick a favorite child, but if you have a favorite, let me know in the comments below. If you make any one of these, please share and tag me. I'd love to see. And I am gonna go finish this thing. Oh, and remember, there's always time to cook.
Hey guys, I'm Kelly and I'm a culinary producer at Tasty, and I love apple pie. Apple pie is the best of both worlds. It pairs that crispy, buttery, flaky crust with baked spiced apples seasoned with all those warming, delicious spices. But I understand that sometimes it can seem intimidating. So today I'm gonna make a 6-minute, a 60-minute, and a 6-hour apple pie to show you that you can make this delicious dessert no matter how much time you have. All right, let's get into it. First up is our 6-minute apple crisp. It's really great if you're living in a dorm, or maybe you're having that late night apple pie craving and you just need it now. So first thing we'll do is just chop this apple. We're gonna cut nice thin slices. Since we're cooking it in the microwave, we need to cut it pretty small so it cooks quickly and evenly. We're using a Honeycrisp because it's my favorite type of apple, but you can use, you know, whatever you like, whatever your favorite is. There's a lot of good varieties out there. Okay, so now all of our apples are diced and we're gonna put them in our mug. Our next step is to just add a tablespoon of water to our apples. And all that's gonna do is help steam them and soften them while they cook the first time. So let's go add this to the microwave for 1 minute. Okay, so now our apples have softened. So I'm gonna add a little bit of cinnamon, brown sugar, and a little bit of flour, just a teaspoon to thicken up the base so it's not like a watery mess, and of course a little pinch of salt. So we're just gonna stir this together. I love seeing the like speckled little cinnamon bits. I think it's so pretty. Next we're gonna make the crumble. So we have some oats, some flour, more brown sugar, more cinnamon. We'll just whisk that together with our fork. And then the last thing we're gonna add, oh, besides more salt, sorry, is some softened room temperature butter. We're just gonna mix this together until it forms like nice chunks. Spread these oats in a nice even layer, covering most of the apples. Put this in the microwave for 3 to 4 minutes until the top is golden brown and crispy. All right, it's out of the microwave, it's looking awesome. You can tell all those juices thickened up just from that little bit of flour, and I cannot wait to dig in. But first, a little garnish, some whipped cream, and lastly, a little cinnamon. I mean, I think this is so cute. I actually think it's really pretty. It looks awesome. Let's try it. The apples are tender, they're full of that cinnamon flavor, and the crisp is so crunchy. Honestly, this is really good. But if you have a little bit more time and you want to make pie for more than just yourself, let me show you how to make this 60-minute apple pie. So what I love about this recipe is it's more close to your traditional apple pie, but it is not going to take up your whole day to make it. So first thing we're going to do is peel our apples. Make sure you have a good peeler and your work will go much quicker. So we're using two types of apples today. We're using Golden Delicious and Gala apples, Gala, I don't know. We're using those because they're a softer type of apple and they'll cook quicker in our pie and it saves us time. And then we're going to slice them a little bit thinner than you normally would. So in culinary school, we had to practice our knife cuts on potatoes and carrots. So I used to sneak potatoes in my bag and take them home so I could practice because I wanted to do the best. So that's all of our apples. So now we're just gonna add brown sugar, lemon juice so they don't brown, cornstarch to thicken it, cinnamon, nutmeg, and salt. You never bake without salt. So we're just gonna toss this all together and we're gonna let it sit while we assemble our pie crust. We have a store-bought pie crust. We're just gonna roll it out a little bit wider than the width of our pan, and that's because we wanna create those really fun edges and we need a little bit of length on the end to get that. So this is looking wide enough to me. What I'm gonna do is roll it up, brushing off any extra flour along the way, and then bring your pie pan to you and gently roll it in. And magically, it's in your pan. Press it down on the bottom so it reaches the edges. Brush off any excess flour. Okay, so now we're gonna add all of those apples. We're just gonna put this in the fridge while we make our top crust. So for my top crust, I rolled it out to about a 12-inch circle. And what I'm gonna do is cut it in strips to make a pretty lattice shape on top. So it kind of upgrades our pie, so nobody has to know that we use store-bought dough. So we have to make 6 1-inch strips and 8 half-inch strips. Take your longest piece first and place it in the middle. And this is gonna be your guide. So we'll lay 2 of the half-inch strips in between each of the 1-inch strips. Pull back each of the 1-inch strips and gently place another 1-inch strip horizontally across. Then fold the 1-inch strips back down over. So you're gonna keep doing that process, alternating between the thick pieces and the thin pieces until you get that beautiful lattice design. So now we're gonna do the edge. So we're gonna do something kind of different and roll it inward, tucking all those little bits in so nobody has to see those jagged edges. We're gonna start the crimping process. So use your knuckle to like dig in and then use your thumb and index finger to push back and just keep going around. So now what we want to do is just brush off any of that excess flour because when we add the egg wash next, we really want that to stick to the crust. And now our last step is to add some raw sugar on top just to give it another little crunch. So we're gonna bake this in a 425-degree oven for 40 minutes, covering halfway through until the crust is golden brown and the juices are bubbling. Let's go. All right, she's out of the oven. She's golden, she's glossy from the egg white. I'm really excited to try it. Let's dig in. I like don't want to cut her because she's too pretty. For a 60-minute pie that came together with just a little bit of effort, the filling has tons of cinnamon flavor. The crust is super crunchy and that raw sugar just gives it that little bit of edge. But if you have more time and you really want to impress your friends and family, stick with me for this next recipe. Now I'm gonna show you how to make my 6-hour salted caramel deep dish apple pie. So first what we're gonna do is just season our flour, then we're gonna add in our cold butter. I cut this in about 1/2-inch cubes and I actually popped it in the freezer for about 15 minutes just so it's really cold and firm. So what I like to do is like make sure each of the pieces is coated in flour before I start smashing them and toss it onto the next one. Also, I find this therapeutic. Like I can just zone out. The kids yelling at me, I can just zone out and just keep doing my dough. Okay, so that is looking awesome. The next step is to add ice water, a tablespoon at a time. So I like to toss it up in the air like this just to incorporate that water and then add a little bit more. So we're using ice cold water because we don't want to melt that butter. And you know that there's enough water in it when you press together and it holds together. So now that this is shaggy looking, I'm gonna transfer it on the table and finish bringing it all together. I'm gonna wrap them in plastic and just pop them in the fridge for about an hour to let the gluten relax. And while that's happening, we'll make our filling. So for this filling, we're doing something a little bit different. This time we're gonna par cook the apples before they go in the oven to bake. So to start, we have 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter melting. We have a big bowl of apples. I'm gonna add them right in. We have the juice of 1 lemon, brown sugar, salt, of course. So this is pumpkin pie spice, and you might be saying, Kelly, what the hell are you doing? But listen to me. It has cinnamon, and it has nutmeg, ginger, cardamom. So we're adding a bunch of that. Okay, and you might think I'm crazy again, but I'm adding a little bit of vanilla. Vanilla isn't something you would traditionally find in apple pie, but Martha Stewart does it, so I'm doing it. Okay, so stir it. We want to cook it until the sugar is dissolved. So we have a little bit of cornstarch, and I'm just gonna add some water to make a slurry. And what this does is just incorporates the cornstarch without lumps. So crank the heat up and let it come to a boil, and then once it's thick, we can set it aside and move to the next step. So since this is an epic apple pie, we're gonna add even more apple flavor by reducing some apple cider. I learned this trick from a pastry chef where you reduce down cider until it's the consistency of like maple syrup. It's looking great. I'm gonna let it cool, and then we will go assemble our pie. So I got my dough here. It's been chilling for an hour. Now I'm just gonna roll it out till it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. All right, so this is rolled out. I'm gonna do the same technique. Roll it back on the pin, and then roll it back in. Press it down. We're gonna add in all of those apples. So I'm gonna pour over that cooled apple cider that I reduced down. This is our secret ingredient. Put this in the fridge while I roll out the top crust. All right, so I rolled out my top crust, and now I'm gonna add it on top, and then we'll finish assembling. Press around the sides to make sure all of the edges are sealed together. Then we're gonna take a pair of scissors and just kind of clean up any long edges. I'm gonna tuck it under this time. Now we're gonna do the same technique as before with the crimping. We're just gonna do them a little bigger so they're a little more exaggerated. Brush it with some egg wash. So now we're gonna cut some slits, and what this does is help the steam release as it's cooking so you don't end up with a soggy top. Put this in the freezer for 20 minutes to harden back up, and then we'll put it in the oven for 80 to 90 minutes until these juices are bubbling and thick. So the apple pie is in the oven. It smells great. I cannot wait. But to make it even more epic, we're gonna add a thick, gooey caramel sauce on top. First, we're starting with sugar and water. To make it even more foolproof, I'm gonna add a little bit of corn syrup. It helps prevent crystallization, and it will also keep that really glossy shine that we want for the top of our pie. Now that everything is in the pot, you're gonna bring it to a low boil and cook it until it turns a light copper color. So I say caramel. Some people might say caramel.
Caramel.
Caramel? Wait, what am I saying?
Caramel.
Caramel. Like, it sounds very blunt to me. Caramel. 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 So this looks perfect. It's like the color of a copper penny. We're gonna turn off the heat and add all of the heavy cream. It's gonna boil up, so don't be scared. Keep stirring until all the cream is incorporated. I'm just gonna let it cool, and then we'll top our pie with it. All right, guys, it is out of the oven. It's beautiful. The last step is to pour this delicious caramel sauce over the top. We're just gonna let it drip down the sides. Oh my God, it's so thick. It's glossy from that corn syrup. The last step is these candied pecans. It is finished. It is mile high. The sauce is dripping off. I cannot wait to try this. That is some serious pie. The crust is the best part. Like, I'm a sucker for crispy crust, and this is like, it's buttery. I could just eat the crust and the caramel sauce. All right, well, that is it for us. Today we have made a 6-minute, a 60-minute, and a 6-hour apple pie. I hope you guys make them and love them as much as I do. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think. And just remember, there is always time for apple pie.
Hey everyone, I'm Joe Sasso. I'm a chef here in Los Angeles, and I love donuts. I love how fluffy they are, how fried they are, how absolutely delicious donuts are. I think you should be able to have donuts any time of the day, in any given circumstance, and you should be able to have them at home. Today, I'm gonna show you how to make a 15-minute donut, a 50-minute donut, and a 5-hour donut. All right, let's get started. Picture this, you're hanging out with some friends, you need something sweet. You're tired of brownies, you're tired of cake and cookies, but you know what you're never tired of? That's right, donuts. First things first, we're gonna make our dredge here for our donuts, our little sugar, spice, and everything nice to toss our donuts in after they are fried. I like to start with a little bit of sugar, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of salt. Yes, even salt when you're baking or doing something sweet, it really just brings out all the rest of those flavors. And then my little secret twist to this is Szechuan peppercorn. I'm gonna mix this all together here, maybe even use a whisk, make sure it's all combined. I'm gonna set this aside. We're gonna use a little secret donut hack. We're gonna be using biscuit dough here. There it is. Start with a little bit of flour, just so we don't have any stickage. Lay out all of our biscuits. This is fun because it's a play on cronuts, which are like croissants fried as donuts. These are biscuits fried as donuts, so they're like bonuts. I'm gonna do them as holes, so donut holes. First, I'm going to roll these out about 1/4 of an inch here on the donuts. I like to roll them out just a little bit. I got a small hole punch here, a ring cutter, because then you have little donut holes. They're cute, they're delicious, they're fun. Small foods are always cuter. And then you have these outer rings. You can bake them as biscuits, then you have biscuit rings. You can put an egg in there, you can have egg in the hole. We have our oil here, 350 degrees. That's like the magical number when you're frying things. And these are gonna go pretty fast, about 3 minutes on one side, about a minute or two on the other. Drop them all in one by one, trying to get as close to the oil as possible so there's not a big splashdown. Just kind of watch the donuts. You wanna see little bubbles coming off the side, and you're looking for golden brown and delicious. GBD is what we call it in the restaurant. It's been about 2 minutes here. We're gonna go ahead and flip these guys over. Probably got a minute left on this last side. I have my spice mix. I have a rack here to catch my hot donuts. The hardest part is waiting right now, but it's only 15 minutes altogether. Not that bad. Those are looking great. We're gonna go ahead, pull them. The rack is going to whisk away any excess oil before we get them into our sugar, spice, and everything nice mix. Now the trick here, donuts still hot, cinnamon sugar right away. The donuts are going to best absorb all of this goodness while they're hot. These guys, we'll put them back on the rack. Next 4, little toss toss. Smells so good. And there you have it, hot, fluffy donuts, 15 minutes. That's awesome. What I really love about these is they're mini donuts. So you can eat a lot of them and not feel bad about it at all. Make a basket for yourself, share it with friends. One of my favorite things about them is the Szechuan, because it adds this little warming note. They're not spicy, just a little, hey, how you doing? Let's say you have a little more time. I have a 50-minute donut recipe that you should try. Next up is a 50-minute donut. Little non-traditional here. We are not using oil. There is nothing fried. Everything is baked in the oven. It's a maple bacon donut. First thing first, we have our bacon onto a sheet pan. I'm gonna go 6 slices here. We're gonna pop this bacon in the oven, 350 for about 12 to 15 minutes. While the bacon is cooking, we're gonna get started on our donut batter. We have 3 separate components. We have our wet, we have our dry, we have our fats. I like using cake flour for this. It's very fine. It's a much lighter and delicate crumb. We're gonna sift together our dry ingredients here. Cake flour, baking soda, baking powder, and a little bit of salt. If you don't have a sifter, you can use a whisk, combine it all together in a bowl. You're really just trying to get out all those little lumps. And we're gonna set this aside. Now our wet ingredients, super easy, milk, vanilla. Together, we are going to combine our fats. This we're gonna do in 2 parts. We're starting with our sugar, a little bit of softened butter, and a little bit of vegetable oil. Now the reason why we're doing this is we're dispersing all the sugar with the fat. We're aerating it, trapping all of these little air pockets in there, so that way when we bake the batter, the donuts are light, fluffy, and delicious. Creaming the butter, the sugar, and the oil. I like to turn the bowl, kind of getting this dual effect. Now what we're looking for here is a lighter color. Everything becomes homogeneous and a little light and fluffy, almost like fresh snow. I'm gonna take a spatula here and give my bowl a nice little scrape down, making sure everything is evenly incorporated. Now I'm going to emulsify in my egg, again, one more time with the mixer. All right, now same thing here, fluffy, pale in color, smooth, homogeneous. We'll give it one more scrape just to make sure we got all of the sugar, everything combined. The last step here, we're going to add the dry and the wet alternating, starting with the dry. The reason we're doing this is to not overwork the flour, to make sure there are no lumps, and to make sure everything is beautiful and homogeneous. If we were to overwork this flour mixture, the batter, the donuts will come out dense, will come out a little dry. They're not gonna be airy. The crumb might be a little extra tight. This careful mixing process is gonna all be worth it in the end. I'm gonna add the last of the milk, vanilla, stir, 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 the last of the flour. Then as soon as this all comes together and is thoroughly combined, we're gonna let this rest. Only about 15 minutes to ensure everything is hydrated, relaxed, and ready to be baked. And in the meantime, I'm gonna check on my bacon. Bacon here, as you can see, crispy, golden brown. We're gonna cut this up. Not looking for a perfect dice here, or just a rough chop on the bacon. Coarse, easy, quick, simple, no one's judging you here. We're gonna transfer this to a bowl. We're ready to start assembling our donuts. We have these super fancy schmancy donut pans here. If you don't have these, you can use muffin tins, cupcake pans. Doesn't really matter, it's just gonna be a different shape. They will still taste perfect and delicious. Take some nonstick spray, coat the bottom, and then I have my rested batter and my chopped bacon. So about 3/4 of it's gonna go down into the pans. We'll save 1/4 for garnish. I'm gonna pour the batter about 3/4 of the way up. It will rise a little bit in the oven, so don't go too high here. Measuring cup really helps with the pouring. I like to say work smarter, not harder. This is a great example of that. And this batter is really nice and easy to pour. I'd say it's like a little bit of a thin pancake batter. And we have the perfect amount of batter for 12 little mini donuts. I'm gonna take these off to bake right now. 325 for about 15 to 20 minutes. While they're in the oven, I'm gonna get started on my glaze. Powdered sugar, a little bit of milk, a little bit of maple syrup, pinch of salt, and we're gonna whisk this together. It's gonna look a little clumpy at first. What you're looking for here is a nice smooth mix. Not too thin where it's gonna run off the sides of your donuts. Almost like the consistency of cold, heavy cream. I think I nailed it. All right, we're gonna set this aside. I'm gonna go check on the donuts. The donuts are baked. I've let them cool here on a rack, not in the pans. I don't want them to dry out and overcook. Starting off here, getting my donut into the glaze. I'm gonna dip this in by hand. The trick is to not use hot donuts. You want these guys to cool down. If you're using a hot donut, the glaze is gonna melt really quickly. It's not gonna be a good coating. Give it a little wiggle, wiggle. Dip, dip. Oh, baby, baby. I want all that excess glaze on there because it's yummy. Wiggling these guys around. Donut by donut into the glaze. Before the glaze settles on here, I want to get a little bit of topping action. Some turbinado sugar. It's like a coarse sugar, a little bit of molasses in there for color. That'll add a nice bit of crunch, texture. Just sprinkle a little bit of that on top. Remember that bacon we saved? That's gonna go on top. It's great when the bacon falls into the center. Then you got like a little bacon pocket. I'm a big fan of textures. Bacon, salty, sweet, all of the good things. And there you have it, our baked maple bacon donuts. I am excited. I don't know if you can tell. I can't wait to dive into it and try these things. I'm just gonna go. This one here is calling my name. This is like breakfast and dinner and donuts and everything awesome in the world all rolled into one. So there's no oil, these are not fried. Technically a healthier donut. I mean, that's science. Now we got these under our belt. Say you have a little more time, you wanna make something a little extra, I have the ultimate donut recipe for you. Now we have the 5-hour donut. It's a little bit more work, takes a little bit more time and commitment, but let me tell you, you're having a dinner party, people are coming over, you wanna show them you're serious about life, you're serious about food, this is the donut recipe for you. First things first, to get our dough started, I have all-purpose flour, I have sugar, I have salt, instant yeast, not active yeast. Then I have all of my wet. I have eggs, I have buttermilk, I have regular milk, I have vanilla, I have a lot of things. Soon I will have donuts. Butter melted. Turning this on, adding my wet ingredients slow, just so everything doesn't fly up in the bowl. Low speed till this just comes together. Our dough is kneading. I'm not even gonna break a sweat doing this. We're gonna go about 4 to 6 minutes. We're really looking for a nice, smooth, soft, supple dough. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. Taking a look at the dough here. It's nice and shiny. It is a little sticky. It's a wet dough. It's hydrated. It's not gonna be a dry donut by any means. I have a bowl sprayed with nonstick. I have a spatula sprayed with nonstick. And then that way, as I scrape all of the dough out of the bowl, it doesn't stick to the spatula either. We're gonna wrap this plastic wrap, set it aside to rest till it's about doubled in size. We're looking at 1 to 2 hours. Now, while this is doing its thing, I'm gonna get to work on my cream filling. This donut is filled with a pastry cream because at the end of the day, what's a donut without a cream filling? Here we're gonna take milk, heat it up very gently in a large pot, not too fast, not too hard. You don't want it to burn. While this milk is heating up, we have some eggs, we have some sugar, some cornstarch that's gonna help thicken things along, and a pinch of salt. And we're just going to combine this till we have an eggy, cornstarchy, sugary paste. Once your milk comes up to a simmer, we're gonna do a process called tempering. Tempering is just a process of introducing something very hot to something not so very hot. If I were to just take these eggs and add it right into my milk, I would have sweet milk scrambled eggs, which maybe is not the worst thing in the world, but not for donuts. So we'll take a little bit of milk and 2 hands here, whisking while slowly drizzling in your milk. So now our eggs are warm. We're going to add the eggs back to the milk mixture. Continue to whisk, keeping an eye on things, making sure nothing is sticking to the bottom. The cornstarch is gonna thicken. The egg yolks are gonna slightly cook and set up. And before you know it, you will have pastry cream. You take the pot off the heat, soften butter. That's gonna help slow down the cooking process, as well as keep things nice and creamy. I have a little bit of vanilla. And then our last ingredient, a little bit of lemon juice. It's not gonna be lemony by any means, but a little bit of acid goes a long way. We're going to transfer our mixture through the strainer, and that's really just to ensure we didn't really cook any of the eggs. All the cornstarch is equally dispersed. We have no lumps. Press that through. And now while this is cooling, what you're gonna wanna do is take a piece of plastic. The plastic is going to sit on top of the pastry cream, prevent it from forming a skin, getting a weird texture and all that unpleasantness. We're gonna let this cool to room temperature. We'll add my favorite ingredient, rainbow sprinkles. They're fun, they're nostalgic, they just make me happy. I feel like you can never have enough rainbow sprinkles, so we're just gonna fold these little flakes of joy into the pastry cream. My pastry cream is ready for the donuts. I'm gonna go check on my dough and see how much it's risen. It's been a couple of hours, it's doubled in size, and we are ready to roll and cut it into donuts. Starting with a little bit of flour here, and then I'm going to turn my donut dough out. It's already done 1 rise. This is the point where you can take out a little bit of anger. That's gonna punch out some of that gas and allow it to rise a second time. Tiny bit of flour on top, a little bit on my rolling pin, and we're gonna roll this out to about a 1/2 inch thickness. We're looking good. I have another ring cutter, a little bigger this time. And we're gonna cut this into donut rounds, give it a little twist. So out of this recipe, we're gonna get about 6 to 8 donuts. I'll get 6 nice clean ones here. And then I can bunch my dough back up together, re-roll it out. You really only wanna do that once. If you do it too many times, your donuts are gonna be a little dense. We're gonna take a damp kitchen towel, put them to bed, and let them rest until they double in size again, about another 1 to 2 hours. And I have one more thing to work on, the final component, my frosting. A couple of simple ingredients here. We have mascarpone cheese. We're gonna go into a stand mixer with the whisk attachment. Then I have some heavy whipping cream, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of vanilla, pinch of salt, and the secret ingredient for this, pitaya. Pitaya is dry dragon's fruit, pink powder. It's a superfood. Some say it may turn you into a dragon if you eat it, but tons of vitamins in here. I love it as an alternative to food colorings and dyes, and just whip it together until soft peaks. Nice soft peak. All right, so my frosting is all set. Time to go check on those donuts. Our donuts here have risen, doubled in size. One last thing left to do. We're going to fry them. Our oil here is heated to the magical 350-degree number. I'm not gonna crowd my pan. I'll start off with 1 or 2 donuts here. Gently lower them into the oil as to not have them splash and burn myself or any of my friends around me. And you can see the donuts immediately rise to the top. They start to bubble. They're smelling delicious. I can't wait to get into these. I think I could fit one more donut in here. Don't get too close. You might burn your mustache off. I'm gonna let these go about 2-3 minutes. I can see the bottom starting to get nice and golden brown. Time to give them a flip, kind of like a little buoys. Push down on one side and they'll just float right over. I'm gonna let these go for just another 2 or 3 minutes. All right, these look like they're done. I'm going to pull them out, transfer them to the rack here to cool. Golden brown all around the edges, nice and puffy. These 3 are done here. I'm gonna fry off the rest of them and then it's time to assemble. The time has come. I'm excited. I put my pastry cream into a piping bag, fitted with a sharp metal tip. That's gonna help with filling these donuts. You're gonna be able to poke right into the center and you can kind of feel the donut fill up. More is good, and a little bit will come out at the end, and that's how you know you're full. Don't worry, things get a little messy. We're gonna cover it with rainbow sprinkles. Donuts are all full. We'll set this aside, and now we're going to dip into our frosting. I like to get all down swirly in there, and then if there's one thing I always live by, you can never have enough rainbow sprinkles. Don't be shy, get in there, get a really, really good coating, and onto our landing zone, onto the next one. Rainbow sprinkles just make me happy. How could you not be? And there you have it. That is an ultimate show-stopping 5-hour rainbow sprinkle donut. And now all that's left to do, all I've been wanting to do, is give these guys a try. Moment of truth. Oh, there we are. All of the sprinkles, all of the frosting. I'm gonna go right in there and sacrifice the mustache. It's a mouthful of joy. That's the best way to put it. You get a little bit of the yeastiness from the donut, that pastry cream filling loaded with sprinkles, the frosting. You get a little bit of that taste of dragon fruit, gives it a nice kind of balance, and then all of the rainbow sprinkles. I mean, there's nothing more that I want than another bite of this. This is like the ultimate bite of your childhood. Yeah, it is a little bit more hands-on than the other 2 recipes, but totally worth all of the work and the ultimate vehicle for eating donuts and rainbow sprinkles. And there you have it, a donut for every occasion. The 15-minute donut for when you're craving something sweet in a pinch. The 50-minute donut for when you don't feel like getting out that big pot of fry oil. And then the 5-hour impress your friends, blow the socks off of everyone, the ultimate rainbow sprinkle donut. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, but more importantly, I want you guys to try all 3 at home. I'm Joe Sasto, and there's always time for donuts.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm a pastry chef and I love cheesecake. I make it for special occasions, holidays, and even if I just have some extra time. I feel like there's always time for cheesecake. So today I'm gonna teach you how to make a 20-minute cheesecake, a 2-hour cheesecake, and a 2-day cheesecake. So let's get started. First, we're gonna make our 20-minute cheesecake. This is perfect for last-minute dinner plans where you can make it right before dinner and then it'll be set right in time for dessert. I've got some cream cheese here, some sugar, and I have a double boiling pot. That way you don't burn your cream cheese or your sugar while you're melting it. And we're gonna give this just a quick stir, just to incorporate all the ingredients. While that's melting, I'm gonna bloom my gelatin by adding the gelatin to some water. This is gonna activate the gelatin, and I'm just gonna stir my cream cheese and my sugar, get it nice and melted. You'll see the cream cheese start to turn to more of a off-white. That's when you know that your sugar is melting in with your cream cheese. We're gonna add our lemon juice, our vanilla, and our lemon zest. The vanilla is really gonna bring the flavor out of the lemon, and then you also want to be able to get that fresh lemon flavor. If you have a little bit of lumps, you can switch from a spatula into a whisk. The best cheesecakes are nice and smooth, have a nice texture and consistency. So now we've got all of our lumps out, everything's melted and incorporated. We're gonna add our gelatin and let our gelatin melt. I'm gonna put this in the freezer to let it cool off. Okay, so I've let this chill for about 5 minutes. Now I'm gonna add our store-bought whipped cream and fold it in increments. You don't wanna stir it because that takes the air out of your whipped cream. So we're just folding it in. I can definitely smell the lemon zest. You're gonna see the change in color, and you're also gonna see that your mixture is getting nice and light and airy. And we're gonna put it into our prepared mini pie shells. You just want one big scoop. You don't wanna mess with it too much because again, you don't want the air to come out. Okay, so now I'm gonna put these in the freezer for 15 minutes until they're set, and then we'll be ready to serve. I love a little garnish to really brighten up the cheesecake. So we've got some lemon wedges here, and I'm gonna add some fresh mint. I love the color, and it's really gonna liven up the flavor. And there you have it, a perfect lemon cheesecake for any type of social gathering or just for yourself. It's zesty, it's creamy and smooth, light and airy, perfect. Let's have a bite. Super light, airy, fresh, zesty, all the best components. If you have a little bit more time, I'm gonna teach you how to make a 2-hour cheesecake. For the 2-hour cheesecake, it's definitely more traditional, something that most people are used to having. It's got nice creamy texture, really thick, and of course we're gonna top it off with strawberries for a nice presentation for your guests. So the first thing we're gonna do is have graham cracker crumbs. Then we're gonna add our sugar, just enough to sweeten your crust. And then we're gonna add our melted butter, give it a quick stir so everything is nice and hydrated and incorporated. This is gonna be the crust. I love that we have the pre-prepared graham cracker crumbs because when I was growing up, I used to have to crunch them by hand and it was so time consuming. So now we're gonna put our graham crackers mixture into our pie pan. You wanna add just a little at a time just because you don't wanna overfill your pan. We're gonna spread it out and then you're gonna start to press with your hand all the way up the sides. You wanna be firm because you don't want it to come apart when you're slicing your cheesecake. Alrighty, so now we have our prepared crust pan. We're gonna put this in the oven on 350 for 5 to 10 minutes, just so it's nice and firm. So now I'm gonna show you how to make the filling. You're gonna use a stand mixer or you can use a hand mixer if you have one at home. We're gonna add our cream cheese and we're gonna mix our cream cheese just for a second because we want it to get nice and smooth. Then we're gonna add our sour cream. This is gonna really help add flavor and texture to your cheesecake. I'm gonna put this at a medium speed just so it gets nice and mixed up. Be sure to scrape down the sides of your bowl while you're mixing to incorporate all your ingredients and you don't get any chunks in your cream cheese. And finally, I'm gonna add the sugar. Alrighty, now that our cheesecake batter is nice and smooth, we're gonna add the eggs one at a time. You wanna make sure you add it one at a time because you want your eggs to be fully absorbed and incorporated before you add the next egg. If it doesn't fully absorb and incorporate, then you can get a really soggy and ill-mixed cheesecake and no one wants that. And of course, vanilla for flavor. Now that our cream cheese filling has been mixed and our crust is set and baked, we're gonna just combine the two. Pour right into the pie filling, right in the middle. Ooh, that looks so good. Super creamy texture, no lumps. I love to see that. Now we're gonna put it in the oven on 300 for 45 minutes to an hour. You wanna take it out when it still has a nice jiggle to it because it's gonna keep cooking as it cools. Now we have time to make a strawberry cheesecake topping. So first you're gonna take your strawberries and you're gonna put them in your skillet. You also wanna add your sugar. Sugar is gonna help pull out the juices of your strawberries. We're also gonna add some corn syrup. The corn syrup is gonna give it a nice color and gloss and also some added sweetness. You're gonna cook this down. You still wanna keep your strawberries intact. We're just making some nice glazed strawberries. Of course, you can switch this out to like blueberries or blackberries or raspberries, but strawberries are the best. We're gonna let them continue cooking. We've got some water here. We're gonna add it to our cornstarch and give it a nice whisk. This is gonna make our strawberry topping nice and thick so you can pour it and serve it right on top of your cheesecake. So it should thicken up fairly quickly. You wanna cook your cornstarch until it gets a nice glossy color again for about 2 to 3 minutes. This looks so good. Now we're ready to transfer it into a heat-proof safe bowl. We're gonna chill it in the refrigerator until it's nice and cool, and we'll be ready to top it to our favorite cheesecake. All right, so we have our perfect 2-hour cheesecake right here, nice and set. We let it chill for an hour. So we're just gonna put our strawberries right on top, and we're just gonna spread it out. This looks so good. I love the gloss and the shine on the strawberries. The corn syrup really helped. And there you have it, a 2-hour cheesecake with a lovely strawberry topping. That is delicious. The vanilla and the strawberry all blends in together. It's got super glossy strawberries, a traditional style cheesecake that everyone's gonna love. Stay with me for our 2-day cheesecake. It's indulgent, decadent, and totally worth it. The first thing we're gonna do is make our dark chocolate cookie crust. Take your dark chocolate cocoa powder, put it in a bowl, then you're gonna add your flour and your sugar. Give this just a good mix, just to get it well incorporated. We're gonna add a couple of cubes of cold butter. You just wanna cut it with your fork, getting it nice and incorporated. You want it to look almost like coarse sand. You're gonna add your egg and you're gonna add your vanilla extract. These are the only liquids that you're gonna need to make your dough. And it should come together pretty quickly. You're gonna add your pinch of salt. The salt is a flavor enhancer, so it's really gonna bring out the flavors of the vanilla and bring out the flavors of the chocolate. So once it's all incorporated and it starts to form a ball, be sure to use a little bit of bench flour to dust onto your table. Dump all of your mixture onto the table, and we're just gonna knead this for a few minutes. If it starts to get a little sticky on your table, just add just a little bit more bench flour, but you don't wanna add too much because you can dry out your dough. You know that it's kneaded enough when everything is incorporated and you've got a nice soft ball that isn't too sticky and isn't too tough. We're gonna wrap this up and let it chill in the refrigerator for about an hour. So now it's nice and set. I like to use powdered sugar to dust my surface because it keeps your dough from sticking on the surface, and also it keeps it a little sweet too. So we're just gonna roll it out into a nice round. So I'm making it kind of a weird shape, but it'll work just fine. You wanna measure this out into 1/8 of an inch. We got a 3-inch cutter. We're gonna cut our rounds. You're gonna get about 8 to 9 rounds with this amount of dough. For the crust, you're gonna need about 7. And I love making it this size and this thickness because it cooks faster and more even, and you're able to crumble them up in the food processor much faster. Alrighty, so we're gonna bake these on 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes, and we'll be back. Okay, so I've got my cookies nice and cool. Now we're gonna put them directly into the food processor. Give it a nice little pulse. We're gonna add our powdered sugar. Give it a few pulses. Now we're gonna add our melted butter, and this is gonna crumble up really nicely. So it's nice and incorporated, the color is nice and dark, and now we're gonna put it into our springform pan. Note that we put some aluminum foil at the base of your springform pan because we're gonna put your pan directly into your water bath. That's gonna help set your cheesecake and cook it evenly. And just like our 2-hour cheesecake, we're gonna firmly press it down on the bottom. So now we're gonna chill this while we create our fillings. So we're gonna make our caramel sauce that's gonna go into our filling and be a lovely topping to go on top of our cheesecake. We're cooking our sugar on a medium heat. We're gonna get nice and caramelized. You want it to melt fully. So since we're using a dry caramel, which means without water, you're gonna wanna stir constantly to evenly distribute the heat to the sugar. So it's getting nice and liquidy now, and you can see the color is starting to change. It's starting to get to a nice brown, but we want it to cook a little darker. Cooking the sugar should only take about 3 to 5 minutes total. So now that we're a nice dark amber color, you're gonna add your butter. We're gonna let our butter melt. We're gonna add our heavy cream. Give it a few stirs, let it incorporate, and then in just a moment, you'll have some really glossy caramel sauce. If it gets too hot while you're incorporating the butter and the heavy cream, go ahead and turn it down to low or off. It should be hot enough for you to continue melting the butter and the cream. So there you have your caramel sauce. So I'm gonna let this cool to room temperature, and then we're gonna make our filling. First, we're gonna add our cream cheese. You wanna make sure that it's nice and mixed up before you add any other ingredients, or it's gonna get really chunky. Then you're gonna add your sour cream. Next, we're gonna add our sugar. So now we're gonna add one at a time our eggs. You wanna have that nice off-white golden color. Next, we're gonna add our vanilla and our white chocolate. You wanna make sure that your white chocolate is melted to room temperature. Too hot and it's gonna cook your cheesecake. Too cold and it's gonna seize. I add white chocolate because it really adds a nice full flavor, makes it really decadent and rich. So we're gonna divide everything into these 2 bowls. We're gonna put all of the chocolate, same as the white chocolate, we melted it at low power. And then we're gonna use only half a cup of the caramel. We're gonna save the rest to put as a topping. Then we're gonna take 2 cups of the filling and put it in each of the bowls. It's okay if they're not completely leveled. We're doing this because we're dividing it into 3 layers, so we have a nice 3-layered cheesecake. So let's incorporate the melted chocolate into the cheesecake batter. And now we're gonna stir our caramel. The difference between caramel and caramel is that caramel is a sauce, caramel is a candy. Some people use them a little interchangeably though. Ooh, look at that pretty color. I love this color. So now that looks nice and incorporated, we've got our springform pan and we're gonna layer our filling. We're putting the chocolate in first because it has the most density. And we're gonna smooth this layer out nice and even in our springform pan. Now with the next 2 layers, you wanna make sure you pour slowly. That way it settles on top and it doesn't zebra in and mix in with the other layer. You can even kind of pour it on top in a circular motion. So we're just smoothing it out, not to put too much pressure on the batter. And then finally, we're gonna add our top layer, which is our white chocolate layer. Again, you kind of just wanna pour it on top and around. And so we're just gonna smooth this out just so gently. Now that it's all smooth, I'm gonna put this in a water bath. You want a nice pan size that's gonna fit the entire cheesecake. Place it into here. And then you're gonna get some hot water and you're gonna pour it just about 1/3 to 1/2 of the way up. This helps cook your cheesecake more evenly, and also it's gonna keep it from forming a dome and cracking. So we're gonna put this in the oven on 300 for about 2 hours, and then once it's all cooked through, you're gonna put it in the refrigerator overnight. And you need that full chill all the way through so you can slice it perfectly and it sets really nicely. Okay, so now we're gonna make candy pecans. I like to do this on the first day. That way you can get it out the way, let it cool and set, ready for day 2, and you can put it as your topping. We've got our water here, we've got our sugar, and we've got some corn syrup. This is on a medium-high heat. You don't want it too hot because you don't want to cook your sugar too fast. You want to cook your sugar for about 3 to 5 minutes. Once you get a nice glossy color, you can add your pecans. This time you really want to stir this constantly. Make sure you kind of keep them separated so they don't stick together too much. Once your pecans are nice and coated and glossy, we're gonna take a parchment lined pan and you're just gonna pour it right on the sheet. Be sure to separate your pecans out while they set. Take your cheesecake out of the oven, put it in the refrigerator, and then take a nap. You deserve it. We'll come back on day 2 and finish off our cheesecake. All right, so it's day 2. I've removed the cheesecake from the foil and the water bath. It's nice and set, and you're just gonna pop it open right from the bottom. It should come right out. We have melted our chocolate, and we've also just reheated our caramel from yesterday. First, you're gonna drizzle the chocolate. You wanna do like a zigzag, and you wanna make sure that the consistency is liquidy, but also thick, so it holds. You add your pecans. It looks so crunchy, so crispy. I'm gonna use all of these. There's no such thing as too many pecans. And then once you've topped it with your pecans, you're gonna seal it with your caramel sauce. This time, I like to do it the other way to give it a nice pattern. That looks so good. Okay, so there you have it. You've got your 2-day cheesecake. Your friends are gonna be so impressed. I'm gonna give myself a very healthy portion. Look at the slice that's coming out. Oh my gosh, so pretty. Dig into all these layers. Ooh. Totally worth it. You can totally taste all the flavors of the white chocolate, of the vanilla, the caramel, the chocolate, the nice bitter, crunchy crust. It's so sweet, but it's super balanced. That's what I love about it. It's not like an over sugar block of cheesecake. It really is a perfect level of flavor. So this was wonderful and delicious. I really hope you enjoyed making all the different cheesecakes. We made a 20-minute lemon cheesecake, a delicious, quick and easy 2-hour strawberry cheesecake, and of course the wonderfully decadent 2-day turtle cheesecake. Let me know which one was your favorite in the comments below, and don't forget, there's always time for cheesecake.
Oh yes!